From Sunset Beach, Hawaii, weighing 267 pounds, the magnificent Muraco.
Why is it they call him magnificent?
The man who lifts condominiums off his chest.
Anything that's explosive, anything that's exciting, Prince of Darkness, Master of Destruction, perpetrator of violence. Get ready! I'm gonna burn this place down!
Hello everybody, Don Muraco's Magnificent Podcast once again. I'm James. We're going to do the plug super quick and we're going to get straight to Pedro. In fact, we're not going to get to Pedro Morales Part 2 because we've got a Jerry Briscoe story coming up. But the plugs first, dontherockmorocco.com for your signed merchandise. Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, podcast, wherever you get it, blah, 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 blah. Books that I've written, The Rock and Owen Hart, available on Amazon exclusively. And now we're going to throw it to Don, who has a Jerry... and do you know what? I'm actually going to tee this up as well because... I had Jerry Briscoe on my show. I recorded an interview on Friday, whatever it is, the 10th or 11th, whatever it was. And he threw you under the bus as far as the Dusty Rhodes gig story from 1974 and that you had one too many drinks. So he went into forensic detail of that story. And I said, this is your opportunity, Don, to throw Jerry under the bus with a story of your own. So as... if you've got one, if you've got two.
Greg Valentine, me, eh?
Greg.
Tweet.
Yeah, so give us a Jerry story.
Racking my brain. Let me racking my brain here. And it's a story he doesn't like, so I'll go with Jack, myself. I had a card up in Tallahassee anyway. So I guess we had heels and we each had our own plane. Back in those days, we'd charter our own planes. And so Jacksonville was running the same night, Tallahassee and Jacksonville. Tallahassee was a horrible town. But anyway, so we go and we get in the matches and we get our beer and come back. And, it was a nice flight, but maybe it's a storm. I don't remember. Bob Armstrong was probably around. He was all, he was a great guy. But so we get back to Tampa, and somebody called the Butler Aviation where we were, and they were partners in Florida. They owned they were the guys who used to get that little brown paper sack on the on the Wednesdays after Fort Hesterly, all the part owners of that secret share before they let Barnett go. But anyway, they got back and we were in Tallahassee. I don't know when the card was, and Jacksonville was running, and Ernie, I'm pretty sure Ernie was the Florida champion, not so much, and he was wrestling Rocky Johnson. And Rocky was going over. Rocky was going to take the belt. Rocky was going to beat Ernie in the middle of the ring. And then I think Ernie was going to. Ernie traveled all around the United States, the world, and he was a top card. I think he was headed for New York at the time, headed up there to do battle with Pedro or whoever the babyface or whoever up there to. To work around New York for a while. So it was everything's cool. They got the finish, everything going. You're not taping this, right? No. He didn't want to. The only thing Ernie just didn't want it on tape. Excuse me. Simple as that. So I guess they get the match started going, and they're 3, 4, 5, however long they get into the match, and Ernie looks over and he sees that the red light on the camera is going, and they're taping. He looks and said, "Right, is what?" And he turned around. He walked out of the ring. End of the match. Boom, just flat. Killed the town. Killed the match. Killed everything. So they came back, and I don't know who got word to him. Eddie Graham got word to him somehow that what Ernie had pulled, which the promotion was pulling it on him. Because they told them we're not going to tape your match. We're not going to play your match. But people tell stories. So they found it. They somehow they got Ernie on the phone, and it was heated words. And okay, we'll meet you down at the Sportatorium. Jerry, they're both two tough son of a guns, amateur wrestlers, fighters, shutters. Two rugged guys, tough. So they met. I guess they were going to take it out on Ernie, but Ernie had a tire iron, a 6'11", black athlete, and he was an all-pro football player, and just a huge man. He was a little shorter than Andre, a little smaller than Andre, but he was every bit of a giant. 6'11", just massive creed. So they started fighting or whatever, leg diving or something like that, and Ernie went to work on with the crowbar, with the crowbar in their heads, and they all had they both ended up with stitches, all cut up and left, and he left them there. I guess then he told Rocky when he was leaving he had a 38 in his pocket too, so he didn't go there to lose. He went there, and I guess they thought it was going to be a street fight. It was that and some. The next day he's running, his eyes and cut and all bandaged up, and that's it. That's as much dirt I got on him. He hates that story. Nobody knows that. Not too many people know that story. I think Brian Blair, myself were in the place. So it was that time. Obviously, I was still a baby face before I did actually completely turned. So I remember Blair was on the plane. I don't remember any other guys, but not too many other guys, And then like a couple month or so, like I told you earlier, I'm dragging Jerry into the house, all passed out, drunk, from on a trip back from Tallahassee, and he was in the back of the car and drank him. So we're dragging, and I'm going, what are you doing in your best friend's house at night anyway, calling for his wife, So I'm walking, I don't know where the lights are. I don't know, I'm basically walking in the dark. And I figured she's got this 38 right, aimed right at me. Then I read later she's anti-guns. I thought, oh God. But I had no idea at the time. I said, oh, here's your husband. I got Cherry here. So flick on the light comes, and she's cut her up out of bed. But I'm dragging him to the house 3 a.m, passed out, drunk. Sure, he had more things to say about me, but she goes, oh God, you guys, you never, wanted to come in all cut up and all busted up from tire irons and drunk. She gave me a little bit of the riot act, and I'm sorry, I bowed and ran out. So that's 2 Jerry Briscoe stories.
You know what? I've never heard that as well, the Ernie Ladd thing. What happened to the town afterwards? And actually, how did they explain away the belt change?
Nothing went over. I don't know. Just they covered up. He left the ring, counted out. The law. I don't know how they explained it. Gordon Soley going to explain. He's the great announcer of the South, and he could talk. By the time he subadad and subadud all around and tied you in knots with his tongue, you didn't believe anything.
Did Ernie Ladd ever go back to Florida then?
Yeah. They met, everybody traveled on after a while on big circuits and stuff. Ernie was the first guy he made Hunt, one of the Hunt brothers, whoever was running the Hunts that the Houston Oilers. Ernie played Houston Oilers, American Football League, the old one. And he was the first guy to get a personal contract. I think it was $100,000 a year. And this is to Lamar Hunt. This is his first name. To Lamar, he had $100,000 per year contract to represent, Houston Oilers and Houston and such. So Ernie was Ernie was a celebrity. He was the biggest guy out of pro football. Him and Buck Buchanan was his teammate for the longest time. Just till recently, Steve started approaching his size, and he was just he was like Wahoo, he was a well-known name, household name.
Before I forget as well, Jerry also mentioned, and this was not in conjunction with you, but would you believe it was with Curtis Sayake and Mark Lewin and somebody else as well? I can't remember the name. He said they had made or manufactured or whatever they bought a big magic cookie.
Yeah.
What's the magic cookie? What was in it?
LSD.
Oh, was it?
That's it. I guess he had it on guys with liquid or something, And then, boom, I was in Australia, and I had people told me about it. I never saw it or anything. I've heard a lot about it. And, Curtis is always acid, just cruising. Nothing bothered him. It's like you wouldn't even know he was, tripping on it. He was so, well, that's like I can't go to Toronto. I just got 300 hits acid from Makawao, from Maui, calling Vince. Can't make it. I don't want to go across the border. Acid. Yeah, I don't want to go across the border. 300 hits acid.
Did actually? Well, I'll tell you what Jerry said was that basically because he was a straight shooter and very honest, he was given control of the cookie.
Oh.
But it turns out that Jerry at the time was going out with a girl who was quite pro acid, and convinced Jerry to have a bite. But the point is that's the first time he ever did it, and obviously he got a taste for it. So him and his girlfriend kept taking a bit more and a bit more. And then whenever one of the other guys would say, we want a bit of the cookie, you meter it out proportionally, everybody gets the same amount. But the thing is, the other guys were so out of it that every single time they noticed that the cookie was getting smaller and smaller, Jerry just said, well, you had some. Don't you remember? It was a couple of days ago. And they go, oh, yeah, you're probably right. And then just walk off.
Well, he was with in Singapore. He was with Mark and Curtis, and he took off to one of the opium dens. And they talk, Curtis, you listen to Curtis talk. Yeah, but there's the snake man, the one-armed, one-legged, one-eyed snake man in Singapore, and then Jerry. So I went and they got him. He got, I don't know if he broke away from them. He broke away from the crew. Maybe it was with this girlfriend you're talking about. I don't know who it was. But he got away from that crew. And he went down one of these opium parlors. And they couldn't find him for 2 or 3 days in Hong Kong. So he's no angel. Regardless of all the lies he and Valentine tell about me.
I was gonna say as well. He's no angel, just like Greg Valentine.
Yeah, this is Valentine.
Oh dear, where are you, Greg? Where are you? Come to the show.
Really?
Come and battle it out with Don. Talk about all the times in the opium dens you spent in wherever it was. Oh dear.
Greg was boring though. I don't know. There's not a lot of stuff on Greg. He married a girl like Julie, and then his next wife looked about the same. Was named Julie.
His mother wasn't called Julie by any chance, because then they might have some sort of complex.
Possibly. Possibly.
Oh, dearie me.
In fact, I wouldn't be surprised.
Dearie me. I once went out with a girl called Jamie, and everyone calls me Jamie. So that was confusing for a few months. Oh dear. Anyway, I'll move on then, and we're going to get to. Unfortunately, I'd like to hear about Jerry Briscoe in opium dens for an hour. I mean, we should really cover that at some point. That should be a future topic for the show. But for now, unfortunately, we've got to stick with Pedro Morales.
That's just the extent of my knowledge. I wasn't on that show. He went there and he made his money. He made his 6 or 8 weeks in Australia and came back, and he bought his Mercedes after that. He got that's what he went there to save up for. But he bought his Mercedes. He bought a Mercedes Benz. when he got back.
Did he force you to pay for gas, like if he'd give you a lift?
No. No. Those are just about post-trans days.
Dearie me. Right, so we're going to move on then. Pedro Morales, and I'll give you this quick fact that apparently towards the end of his run, Vince McMahon Sr. offered Bruno more money to work maybe 3 days a week, just in the big stadiums, than Pedro was making doing 6-7 days a week. And that's just pretty much how big of a deal that Bruno was. But similarly, Pedro apparently in New York was a huge draw, but elsewhere not as much as Bruno. We'll come back to that later. But he loses the title, this is Pedro I'm talking about, to Stan the Man Stasiak in December the 1st, 1973. They do a double pin, and Pedro is not announced as losing. Stan is not announced as having won. The announcer just says, "Let's hear it for Pedro Morales, a great champion," and then just escapes. And then everybody escapes, and it's not revealed that it's actually lost the title to the paying audience. Stan the Man Stasiak, though, I've spoke to his son, Sean, quite a few times, actually. Do you remember anything about Stan? Because he was a bit of a journeyman here and there.
Never met him, no. Had that hard punch, and I met him once or twice, but I never spent any time with him. He was around. I'm just going through. I don't know if he was coming through territory, shaking hands or whatever, but I never had the opportunity and pleasure knowing him.
No. Well, he's just a transitional champion, of course, and Bruno wins it a few days later, and then it's the second big Bruno run. I bring up Pedro not drawing well outside the New York area because the big Puerto Rico contingent, and not so much elsewhere. When you were wrestling him, did you notice that Pedro would get more cheers in New York than anywhere else, or did it always seem the same wherever you went?
I think the same. I didn't see a big difference. He'd had that Intercontinental title for a while. He went. Who'd he take it off of? Patera?
Yeah, it was Campatera, yeah.
And then Valentine, right?
No, he was like 1984, didn't he?
No, I was
wrestle it
before
off Tito?
Valentine came in, and Valentine came in with Bob. I took it first. I got with him first before Valentine. Then Valentine followed me, and then I followed Valentine again.
Oh, you're gonna.
So each had three.
And
I had 2 runs.
Right. Okay. So I unbelievably was right. So it's Pat Patterson, Ken Patera, Pedro Morales, you, Pedro Morales, you, Tito Santana, Greg Valentine in late '84.
Oh, just yeah.
Well, it's Valentine. Valentine. Forget about him. Where was I going with
it?
Morales returns to the WWF in 1980. He goes to the AWA in 75. He goes to Florida. He goes to a couple of different places.
San Francisco.
Did he go to San Francisco?
Yeah.
Mid-Atlantic he also went to. And he was in Mid-Atlantic, he was treated like a preliminary wrestler, which I find quite amazing, despite the fact he was a heavyweight champion, and they saw no value in him, apparently.
Well, you got the Ole and Barnett, right? They're not going to. Those guys aren't going to glorify somebody else's champion. They're not going to make Pedro look good, compared to their guys. So there's not a lot of hope. He was getting, I'm sure he was on a guarantee, on a minimum wage thing. So didn't matter. There I was. I never worked against him in those until I got to New York, but I was tag team partners with him quite a bit. I think the night I did a throat thing with Ivan Koloff, he jumped on my throat and the blood and stuff. I think that's the night Pedro and I won the. It's either Pedro and myself or Rock. I'm pretty sure it's Pedro. We won the Florida Tag Team belts, and then couldn't defend him, and they put him on somebody else. I won. He came off my knee that night. I got on a plane, went straight to Japan, and then I was in Japan 3 or 4 weeks, and came back. And by that time, I started to angle with Ivan, working around.
In 1980, he returns to the WWF. They've dropped a W in this time, and he wins quite soon afterwards the WWF tag titles with Bob Backlund. Then they vacate it a day later because they give it the whole, you can't hold two belts thing. No, I'm assuming anyway. That was on the undercard of the showdown at Shea. The Larry Zbyszko, Bruno Sammartino match thing. And I thought I'd bring this up because the next holders were the Wild Samoans. And I don't think we've ever brought up the Wild Samoans before, so I thought it might be worth a story or two with Afa and Sika and what you remember of those guys.
Well, they were the crusher and bruiser of their day. They were nobody'd seen anything like them. The hair and the big thing, they were big guys. They were, like everybody else. They're 6'3", 6'4". When they came in, it wasn't until now they were all shrunk to about 5'10". But, their big wild hair, everything else could move. They got into the business. They are from Northern California in the San Francisco area. And the heels, we used to have these San Francisco policemen with the shields, big shields. And they would take us down to the ring and bring us back. And because people were pretty nuts there. So at the Cow Palace. This was Peter Maivia's heyday, and another Samoan. So, and he was a baby face, and Peter would sell. Peter, somebody working in an angle or something, Patterson or somebody would beat the hell out of Pete, or somebody do something to Pete. Well, and then there they were at the end of the at the end of the aisle there, ready to attack, and billy clubs and punches and everything flying there, and your heels just slipping through. So they gave him so much trouble. When Peter was a baby face and Peter was going there, this tag team, and Peter was a big card. Him and Pat and Ray and those guys. Peter was a big, and these. Oh God, Peter can. The brother, in those days you don't want to smarten anybody up. You don't want people to know about the business and stuff. And boom, let's take him. So they took him and they got him. They taught him how to work. They taught him about the business. If you can't fight them, let them join. So that's how they got. That's how they got in. And then I don't know what territories they started. Probably with Watts, and Wyoming, Kansas City, Oklahoma, Watts, Louisiana. They probably did that circuit down there, gaining experience. And then soon after that, Vince discovered them, or somebody turned Vince onto them. That's then they went. They pretty much made their home in New York since then, or the East anyway.
I've heard a story. It probably was from Pat Patterson, where. Have you ever shared a car with the Samoans where basically, apparently they just start talking normally in English, and then there's a disagreement, and then all of a sudden they start speaking in Samoan, and then it gets a bit, and then it gets louder and louder and louder until it ends up in a full-blown punch-up. Is that familiar?
It wouldn't surprise me, but yeah, I wouldn't,
Did the Samoans ever try and attack you when you were in, when you were against Peter Maivia? Did you ever see them like a wave coming towards the ring?
In Hawaii, I was coming back. I was the heel, and every week I was doing something. I was handcuffed to somebody or tied in the ring, and that giant Goliath, the English guy, the 6'10", huge guy. They call it. He was a giant. He was in Calgary.
Yeah, giant haystacks.
Giant, okay. He was in the Calgary territory, and Leo Maivia, the Maivias were close with Stu Hart, So Stu, evidently he drove all the way back all night long from Saskatoon to the Calgary airport, jumped on a plane, flew all day to Hawaii, didn't check in, went to the building, just sat in the building, I guess, from 4 or 5 o'clock till the ring time. And so then we went out, and I was bringing in guys to beat Peter for him. Bringing in allegedly hiring guys to off Peter. So we go, and I'm locked in a cage. So I don't know how the hell I got out. Somebody got me out or broke the chains or something. Anyway, I got out of the chain. I got over there and I threw salt or something to Peter. This is when he's wrestling this big giant too. Threw salt in Peter's eyes, and so now we're starting to beat the shit out of Peter down. And I got Peter by myself, and I'm kicking him and punching him and stuff. And he's laying there selling. And we look over to the side there, and they start storming the ring already. The Samoans and look over the side. There's this giant Goliath, and he's going down by the level slowly. And then they got him by his legs, and they were dragging him out of the ring to the big giant Tongans or Fijian, big guy, couple big guys. And when Peter and we stopped fighting each other, we drove out of the ring to help Junior Goliath get away, and he didn't know what the hell was going on. The cops with billy clubs, and everybody's fighting, and chairs are flying, and pretty good sized full blown riot. So he goes, that's it. He went back to the locker room, grabbed his bag, went outside, grabbed a taxi, went straight back to the airport, and went straight back to Calgary. That was his day in Hawaii. Poor guy. Didn't get paid, didn't do nothing. Just there he is, yeah.
Yeah, so that's the guy. Because even on his Wikipedia,
got the hell out of there.
Yeah, even with the Wikipedia page, it doesn't say that he was ever called Giant Goliath or whatever. It's just got Giant Haystacks.
Giant something, yeah. Well, this is Hawaii. They made their own. Came from Calgary to Hawaii. But, it was everything was self-appointed.
Yeah, man, he was a huge star over here. Like, I know you've probably not seen Big Daddy, but I mean, have you heard of Big Daddy? He was like the biggest deal here.
Yeah.
Big fat guy. I mean, like, big fat guy. Couldn't do anything. He had a big singlet that said Giant Daddy or whatever it said. Wore a top hat and a cape. Turned up, and he'd do the belly butts. He'd basically just walk into somebody and just bump them with the belly, and then beat them somehow. And then, but he was the biggest star. He was on kids' TV. He was, however big Hulk Hogan was in America, Big Daddy was a bigger deal here. He was like El Santo. It was ridiculous how big of a star he was here. But Giant Haystacks was the second biggest star as well. So yeah, household name for people over a certain age.
I remember her name Big Daddy when they were talking about independence and one of the Dark Side of Wrestling shows, or one of those wrestling shows that they put out.
Do you know what? I'll even find a picture of Big Daddy. Hang on, just 1 second. I'll find a picture of him, and you'll look at him and go, Jesus. Big Daddy. It's going to come with the Adam Sandler film now, isn't it?
I think it was that Johnny Canine show that they did. Chris Jericho.
There you go. I'll show the main camera first. There's Big Daddy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no, he's just a big fat guy in a chair. And would you believe he was the brother of the promoter?
Go figure, right?
I know, amazing stuff. Back onto the Wild Samoans just briefly then. I mean, how good were they as wrestlers? I mean, would you ever have taken them on? Because you were both bad guys at that time.
They did what had to be done, They would, they get their heat. Whoever the babyface, who they work with, Maria and Haystacks, or Maria and Strongbow.
Seeker worked with Hulk Hogan on Saturday night's main event, I think. It was Afra or Seeker, but one of them had a singles run, and they were managed by Curtis Iaukea.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's like around 86, and then obviously that didn't last long because there was a delivery of acid. Oh dear. Right. Okay. I'm gonna move on. Morales defeats Campetera for the IC title. Feuds with Ken, Sergeant Slaughter as well. Morales would also feud with Killer Khan in 1981. Now there's someone we've not brought up, and you also. I'll mention this as well. That you used to wrestle him in Japan. It was you and Hulk Hogan versus Antonio Inoki and Killer Khan. But yeah, memories of Khan.
He lived right by. He lived next door to Kurt Hennig. My first time in New York. The first time when we lived in New Haven. He had married an American girl, and he had a daughter. I don't know if he had a son too. The daughter was huge, just a giant. She would go and she would maul Joe Hennig, Kurt's son. He'd see her, but she was there about the same age. She was just a giant. I guess she grew up, and the wife. He married a American girl, and then I worked with him in Japan. He's a good guy, And then he went to Japan. He got a cartoon show. He was hosting he hosted a TV show. It morphed into that after he was done with wrestling, because he kept that Killer Khan gimmick and the crazy gimmick and stuff, and he got over it, and he got him on TV. So he had that for quite some time.
Do you remember seeing any of the Andre the Giant feud? And I know Killer Khan was given credit for breaking Andre's leg, whereas actually he probably just broke it getting out of bed.
Yeah, I forget how he broke it, but yeah, Khan got it all. That he broke it. I remember telling the story about Andre going to the anesthesiologist at the time, because they were putting him out and they're going to put something in his foot there, in his ankle, so he could, to help him heal. And the anesthesiologist had never seen anybody like Andre. And just, I said, well, do you drink? Yeah, do. He said, well, what's your drink of choice? At the time, he was drinking vodka. He says, well, how much do you drink before you pass out, or you really, one bottle, 2, 3, yeah, about 3. It takes about 3 bottles. The regular, why not the big half gallon?
To feel it.
Yeah, for him to get, buzzed out and go to sleep. So from there, the anesthesiologist calculated how much drugs he needed, how much drugs he needed to knock him out, so he wouldn't wake up in the middle of surgery and be an angry giant.
With Killer Khan, any other memory? I don't really think or did he show up beyond WWF in Japan? I can't really think where else he would have been a star. I mean, probably.
No, I think after his New York run, he was gone. He went back. Inoki took him back, and he was happy to. He didn't speak a lot of English. He's married to an American lady, and I think he kind of left her. I don't know what their relationship was after that. But 1 or 2 kids, yeah.
Did you ever take the green mist?
The kabuki thing?
Yeah, because he used to do that as well.
No. I was a heel. I was a heel when the green mist came about. I knew a kabuki, Takachio. He came over to LA when I first started wrestling, and he was one of Baba's guys from the first time. Then he had to run his everything in kabuki, Kempo master, and all those other things. He was a hell of a worker too. Takachio.
With Pedro Morales, we'll go back in. Actually, I'm going to ask a question about you. You were brought up to the WWF. You had a good showing with Bob Backlund. Vince McMahon was impressed, senior. You start making appearances TV-wise in the WWF 1981. You wrestle for New Japan while shooting TV for the WWF. You're going back and forth for a couple of months. And also in Florida as well, that you're keeping your hand in. And then you start in June, full-time with the WWF in 1981. When did you first discover that you were taking the belt off Pedro?
Probably that night. There was a feeling it was going to change, but nothing. Maybe they know about it, but I don't, they'd have to. Pedro. They wanted to give Pedro, to suit his. Make sure it's all right for him, because he wasn't up on doing jobs or around the big cities, because he had been. He was trying to protect, and it was still in old days, old time, protect what you had, the image he had.
How did you sort of protect him while he lost the belt to you? What was the finish?
Press knucks. Pulled something out of my tights and hit a foreign object. The ever faithful foreign object.
Yeah. Which was just
deadly foreign object. Yeah.
Yeah. Didn't you say there was usually a lollipop stick or something that you just wrap up?
Yeah. Well, yeah, popsicle stick. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or something, just tape it up. A coat hanger, and a coat hanger up, so You wasn't going to hurt anybody.
All right. So you wrestled Pedro quite a lot, but how come back in the day? I mean, obviously you weren't touring as many different cities. It wasn't like a 90-day loop. But how come you'd wrestle Pedro for a week, and then you just disappear and wrestle other people for a few weeks, and then you come back to Pedro, and then you carry on like that? How come you wouldn't have a more extended, exclusive run with Pedro?
Well, that was a business, and that's before Junior took in, and everything was Hulk Hoganized, where everybody's just working in one direction for one purpose, unless you had another angle here. A little angle going there. But in those days, you'd come and you'd have your main event on the weekend, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, Baltimore, Cap Center, Hartford, Boston, Madison Square Garden. Those towns usually ran on a weekend or near the weekend. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So, it was convenient for population. So but those are still the old days before the Hulkamania and stuff like that. When you're out, you're wrestling all kinds of different guys every night. We'd go up to Maine and New Hampshire and for 4 or 5 days, 3 or 4 days out of Boston. And if I was the champion, I'd 2 nights I'd be the champion, or 2 nights I'd be wrestling the champion, and then 2 nights somebody else would be with the champion. So they'd split it up like that. Somebody else would get the top money one night, and I'd get the semi money the next night, and the next night I'd get the top money. And the towns were pretty much similar as far as dollar wise, and house things were. And everybody, you'd come out of 3, 4, 4 days in 3, 4 days up in Maine, and during the summertime, New Hampshire, beautiful up there on the foods and everything. You come out of there with a couple grand before you even run into the weekend. Then you'd be top guys, and then you'd run and you'd come down, then you'd come back to base zero, and then you'd be heading out on the. Then you'd have your 3, Pittsburghs, Philadelphia's, or whatever the weekend had to offer. You had your big shows, so you weren't even touching base yet.
You hinted at it slightly, but did you say that Pedro was not particularly happy about losing the title, or not happy about losing full stop?
Well, the second one in Madison, he never lost in Madison Square Garden. The second time I took it back, I guess it was in the Garden. I didn't remember. I guess the first time was in the Spectrum in Philadelphia. And then when I came back and took it back again from him, it was in the Garden. I said, well, I don't know. I never go to be losing in the Garden here. So I suppose you could kind of see the writing on the wall, and he was Vince Senior was still running the show, pretty much. So I don't know what kind of conversations took place there.
What was the reaction of the fans? Like were they coming over the railings to try and kill you? You screwed over their champion.
Yeah, they weren't happy.
Because you've said, I'm sure you've said before that, like, when you're wrestling Pedro, that's when, like, maybe the most fan attacks happened, or people trying to get at you.
Yeah, probably, yeah, because it was still, still all run out. I was still the old heel, I still was still old style, wrestling. Then it wasn't, hadn't gone to that big entertainment venue in the sky. With the Hogan and the TNTs and the models rubbing oil on my feet and the Fuji Vices and all the other stuff. It's the heat changed, and the security changed everything. Everything kind of changed.
Did anyone ever try and stab you?
No, I don't know. Not that I know of. Might have not hit the guard when I went after him with pipes and stone bricks. There was a while I wouldn't go to Brooklyn. Brooklyn worked in an old place, and they completely destroy your car. You'd be there with no car to get home. Yeah.
You've just reminded me. Actually, I've reminded myself sort of, because I heard a Roddy Piper getting stabbed by a fan story from.
I just saw that story yesterday. I was watching it yesterday.
Bill, oh no, well it's not something I've posted yet. I don't think anyway. Bill Alfonso, referee from Florida. He says hello, by the way.
Oh, Alfonso, yeah, he's a good guy.
Yeah, he's a load of fun, Fonzie. I'm going to move on then, and let me have a look here. Yeah, we're going to go into like Pedro personally a bit more. But before we do wrestling Pedro, how much planning went into the matches beforehand, or was it basically let's just do whatever we did last time?
Oh, you just get the finish, You get the finish right. There wasn't a lot of stuff Pedro was going to do. He had that great fire, great comeback he had. It was pretty much like a Hulk Hogan match. You'd start, you did your heat, he'd make a comeback, then you go to your portion where you get your big heat. He'd like to take a bump over the top rope or something. And it was longer than I wanted him to sell, but it was fine. He was going to do it his way. Not going to fight you on it. It was over the top rope, and you get to make that big comeback. And and he'd start throwing that left hook, start throwing those big lefts, and boom, boom, boom. Out of that, you'd find your cue to go into a finish.
Did you speak to him or hang out with him much sociably, behind closed doors? So obviously people didn't see you guys together.
Little bit. He lived by me in Jersey. He moved in, and then a lot of the hotels and stuff we're by ourselves. He would, he was always Pedro always dressed, not often in a coat and tie unless it called for it, but he always, always nice, well dressed shoes, nice pants, nice shirt, long sleeve shirt. He had a big wallet, great big wallet. He would hold the wallet all the time. And come down, amigo, come down, he'd buy you there. He'd send you, shots of cognac or brandy. Cognac or brandy was his drink. And, he'd talk, and he'd talk across the bar. He was a sociable guy. He was a hell of a nice guy. We just, we didn't ride around together, go out to dinner or nothing together, but there were times we would get together and, BS each other.
Who did he travel with? Do you know?
Probably Johnny Rods with those guys. Tonga, Haku, lived by Haku, I think was still a baby. So he with Haku when Pedro was around. They lived the apartment complex close to one another. The Tonga and Johnny. I don't know. He didn't have a lot of Jose Estrada, a lot of the Puerto Rican guys, but he didn't have a lot of guys that he hung out with. I mean, probably because of, his days as champion and stuff too. It's pretty much a lonely road there. So I don't think. But if he would, there would be times he'd cruise with different guys.
Yeah, I forgot to mention this before, but apparently he earned $500,000 for his run as champion between 71 and 73. So, not bad work if you can get it, especially for the 70s.
I bought all his property in Puerto Rico. He used to go back to my island, baby, my island. He bought an Aya Culebra around Puerto Rico there.
So he was a decent saver then. He put
Evidently,
it away.
Yeah.
Good for him. I'm going to give you a few wrestling tropes now. So, black people have got hard heads. Anyone from an island or possibly Japan wrestles barefoot or spits green mist. And Hispanics, such as myself and Pedro, we have fiery Latin, Mediterranean blood that flows through our veins. And, we've got horrible tempers and the whole thing. And, we Hulk up in the pre-Hulk days thanks to our Latin blood. Was he actually just like a super laid-back guy in real life and not hot-tempered at all?
Yeah, but he would, he was a businessman as well. I wasn't around there in the early days, but then, he would speak up for himself. He wasn't, he wasn't a, mindless dummy. He would speak.
With the promos you cut on him, obviously his were very basic, and I love all my people, he'd speak Spanish and then so forth. And you would be a lot more colourful. And was there anything like, when you used to do the interviews on Bob Backlund and call him Howdy Doody, and Bob said, listen, can we cut out the Howdy Doody portion? You did. Was there anything Pedro was like, whoa, that's a bit too heavy? Can we leave that out?
Not that I remember. I only did Howdy Doody one time, and Bob never said anything. Somebody else was standing around. Didn't really like that Howdy Doody thing. Maybe it was Ernie or Lou Albano or something like that. Okay, fine. That's like I can think of something else to call him.
Yeah.
Right.
We'll move on then. And I've got this piece of paper here that says 23rd of November 1981. That's when you lose the title back to Pedro. And you're gone pretty soon after from the territory. Maybe you stay a month, then you disappear back to Hawaii. Now, were you leaving at this point for any other reason than you just had enough? And did you lose the title? Did you drop the title because you were going, or did you decide to go?
Just the first time?
Yeah, this is late 1981.
Oh, well, my run was up. And they would bring you in, they'd bring the heel in for 6 months at a time there, roughly. Last 6 months, and you'd run through, you'd have your, I could tell you, I started ass backwards with Martel in the garden, instead of like normally you'd come up, you put a heel over like me, the 6-8 weeks on TV, and you come right in, I'd come right in with Backlund and then break off into three, depending how well you did, you'd break off into three shows with Bob. That not being the case, I started with Rick in the garden. Somewhere on the way back there, I picked up that Intercontinental title, and then worked with that for a while, and then I went to Bob afterwards. So it wasn't instantly that I got together with Bob, which was different from their protocol. Didn't fit their schedule, but the heels would come in for 6 months, approximately. They'd have a good 6 month run. The shot 2, 3, however many shots with the title with the champ, and then another shot with the secondary, Patterson or Martel or Pedro or Strongbow or somebody, a baby face. And you build them up, and boom, you'd be gone, or get a win out of it. It depends what the office wanted to do, but you'd work around it, and so you'd have two angles, two money making opportunities, and then all the other shots in between. was New Jersey and all the small towns in Maryland and all the towns like New York and Maryland, Connecticut and stuff. They all paid you cash, but that was all the local promoters, and they all divvied it up. So it wasn't bad payoffs. It was good money, you know.
Did you, when you were in New York, did you spend enough time there to know that that wasn't the place you wanted to be, and you were missing the sun by that point?
Money was too good.
Well, that's what I was going to ask, actually, because you end up going back, obviously, and was it just the money was too good and that was it? That's why you went back?
Yeah, that was the end of the rainbow, you know. That was everything. I don't think not too many guys walked out of there. Tom Zink's the only one I know. But if you're had a position like I did, you know, right at the top there, with the champions or being a champion or potential champion or championship matches, and then you know, I was in I had a good spot there.
Yeah, and you come back, so you do Mid-Atlantic, you do Japan, you do Georgia, and then you go back to the WWF. I think maybe late '82 or very early '83, and you go straight in, and you're straight on top. You're on top again. You're defeating Pedro, you're defeating Backlund by count out or some other screwy finish where you can't win the title, but you're winning, and then you win the Intercontinental belt again straight away. Was this a last-minute decision once again, or did you know you're going to win it again, or is this just something that would just be decided that day and you wouldn't be clued up in advance?
I'm sure they had the decision in the office before that, but I was included. I don't think at the time. Pedro probably was, but I wasn't.
And how did you beat him the second time? Do you remember? I don't
cheated again.
Yeah, you would have cheated again, but I didn't look that one up. I should have done. I believe you said
one of them I know was brass knucks. I don't know how the second one was.
Excuse me. I'll give you this little fact as well, actually. So Pedro, with the most combined days as IC title holder with 619, he's on the top of the list, and you're third as far as days holding that belt with 541. Do you know who's second in between you and Pedro?
Honky Tonk?
The Miz.
Oh, The Miz.
Except he's had 78 runs with the belt and you had 2.
The guy's I don't know, he's a tremendous talker, performer. I watched him work in the ring. I've seen his stuff on TV. He just doesn't get over with me. I just take him seriously. I mean, he's, tremendous performer, both on the mic and in the ring. He's just, I think just like he seems like, you kind of know his mind somewhere else and not, he's in wrestling, but he sees himself a movie star or something.
I mean, I'll throw out these 2 criticisms. You see if you agree with them. 1, he doesn't have the look of a main eventer. He's not a small guy, but he doesn't have the look of a main eventer. And 2, there's a big gulf of difference between being a very good talker and being a very good promo. And he's a very good talker, but I think you'd be hard pressed to find any interview that he ever did that really drew people's interest to want to see him wrestle or get beat.
Yeah, probably, but he's got to be on. He's on every week. So it's hard for him to get selective and for him to, to find peaks and valleys to hit and get mad. I started to like him just before he left. He was, I think Bobby Lashley. They're trying to get Bobby Lashley right. He put Bobby Lashley over and he put another guy over, and I thought his work was exceptional. And then next thing he was gone or he did something else. And it seems like, in my mind, he just kind of regressed.
Do you think it's a booking issue with him and he could be more, or, he could be a better money draw, or do you think there's something that he needs to improve on or change about himself that would elevate him to, in your opinion?
Yeah, I don't know. It would be... It's hard with the TV now. it would be hard to create, some type of empathy or, any kind of empathy with him. I think his only change would be the baby face. I don't think he could get that much heat as a heel. Maybe if he went out there and beat his wife and kids or something, that's the heat you don't want. So I don't think you get that. So yeah, I don't see him, getting that much empathy from, getting somebody, to kidnap his wife or kidnap his kids or something, to where he's that angry that everybody's going to pull for him. I don't know. Could be. But the ways the TVs are organized now, the way the production's organized now, it seems like it's kind of hard.
Yeah,
there's a couple guys there that I don't think they just, in my opinion, they just don't get over, but they use them. So what are you going to do? You're there making good bread, so you're not going to fight City Hall. He's probably making 500. 800-900 grand a year.
I'd say he's in the millionaire club easily. More people are now.
Yeah. I wouldn't argue with that.
Yeah, I think Roman Reigns is making something like $8 million a year, and I reckon.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
I read 3, but I don't know. It could be.
I think. Well, this is a couple of years ago, but I remember hearing that Brock Lesnar was making for part time. He was making something like 12 million.
Oh yeah, Lesnar. Yeah, he's got him over a barrel.
Yeah.
And he's
got options. That's the thing. He's
yeah. See, if you don't need them, they need you. That's the secret to the whole thing. You don't need them, so they need the hell out of you. And you get the USC credentials and all that. He's played football. He's been around.
But he'd be a huge asset to AEW if he went over there. But they won't pay him enough. So.
Yeah.
But
I think he goes to Japan.
No, he's not been Japan in years. I mean, he did for a brief spell, but no, since 2011, I think he's been WWE and one UFC fight, I think one UFC fight, and that's a lot. I'll move on then, and a few more questions, then we'll shut the podcast down. I'll let you go to bed. And then I'll have a nap as well, probably as well. Pedro goes to Puerto Rico for a couple of years. How come you never went to Puerto Rico? Because I thought WWF had a decent relationship with Carlos Colon at this time.
We had some shows there. I went there for Florida, and I went there. Pretty sure Vince, when we did a tour down there, Trinidad and Tobago, and St. Martin's Island, Puerto Rico. I don't know if it was I think we're just supplementing Cologne because Monsoon had a piece of that. Monsoon had a piece of Puerto Rico. That's how Victor Quinones got in there. He used to live with Monsoon. So but Monsoon had a piece of that. So, and Vince Sr., they'd go up there, and Puerto Ricans, they use a lot of the Puerto Rican guys in New York, obviously, because, there's a nationality fit, but aside from that, yeah, they did a lot, So I guess he used to, wash each other's hands.
Yeah. And also, Pedro will win the WWC North American title from Buddy Landel and lose it to Sweet Daddy Siki, who we mentioned before. But I've got to ask, Buddy Landel, you ever come across him in like Mid-Atlantic or wherever?
No.
Oh.
No, he was around Tennessee, and he stayed around that Tennessee area forever. Between Jarrett and Lawler and Dick Goulas, he made his rounds there. Pensacola, down there for the Fullers. He worked for the Fullers and that whole area there, that middle Florida, middle Georgia, Tennessee, Florida Panhandle, Alabama, all those towns around there.
Yeah. And Sweet Daddy Siki. You spoke about him a little bit earlier, but did you have any real interaction with him?
Well, he was here, we were talking about black heels, guys that were black, back in the day, pre-day. that he was. I remember him being one of them, and bringing it was, God, early 70s. I came back here. I was back in Hawaii. He was in Hawaii for some reason, and he had his guitar and sing on the "We Don't Smoke Marijuana" and Skokie and stuff. He liked to perform and give him a chance to. But I never spent a lot of time with him. He was a nice man, but I had, in the territory a lot. Never got a chance to work with him or being a programmer with him. I was really green when he was around. Sure, he didn't want to work with me.
I wonder like how much like abuse, like, because you're gonna just put up with a ton of abuse, like especially for a black wrestler in the 50s and 60s. Like,
oh boy,
why would you even put up? I mean, why would you put up with it? But maybe you want to shove it down people's throats. Maybe, who knows?
Oh God, I don't know. Like I said, I don't know. He's the only one I really know of. Now Bearcat, if he'd have switched, turned on somebody, but you got to look at your gate, your box office. You're going to get more people, turning somebody turning on him, and it's easier for him to get sympathy. And I remember one night I power slammed the Haiti Kid. Fuck, I almost got killed. And I just, you crazy, dog, you fucking dog, you crazy. Get over here, you little prick. We'll go get these people. We'll get their attention. And then, boom. Never felt it. I held them the whole time. I didn't,
I was going to say, you never felt it. He probably felt it really bad.
No, he didn't feel it. Nobody didn't feel it. That was me doing that, me slamming him. He didn't even feel the mat. I suplex belly to belly Tony Gurria one time. Turned him over and caught him before we landed. So I can't believe it. I can't believe it. And then didn't drive him through the mat. That was old style. Take care of the guy you're working with. That was the old days.
It was also, the ring was probably a lot harder as well.
No more power bombs from the sky. I imagine my fucking neck if that went down. But I'd have been that was just coming as I was leaving. Those power bombs and stuff. Oh my God.
I was going to say, because the ring
guys are
giving
them to Razor Ramon and Diesel and stuff. They were way up there. They were. Oh God.
That's
Tony Atlas put me magnets in my feet with that dropping me back on that atomic drop. I never got up. I used to fly. My feet would point right up to the ceiling. Kick my feet in the air. I mean, as high as people would scream, and I'd land on the guy's knee and I'd bounce, and then after that, and somebody trying to pick me up. And, man, it's easier to slam. It would be easier to slam Andre than to give me one of those bumps. I swear, I was like, I was like a mongoose. I just. And I didn't try. I would try to get up. I would try to help. And man, I've seen some films that happen afterwards. Oh, there it goes. Somebody tries to do that to me. I could just see his balls dropping. What happened? Normally I was really light, really easy. You could put me anywhere you wanted to, and a move like that is really that's a really easy thing. That's not much of a. There's nothing there. It doesn't, no feeling, no nothing. You just go up and you go down. You bounce and sell it. You don't, no percussion, no concussion on that. But God damn, I couldn't go up for nothing up to that.
What was the one move that you really hated taking? Like, let's say you're feuding with whoever you're feuding with, and it's their finisher, and it's a big move, and you hated taking it every single time, but you had to.
Just that ass bump there. Yeah. That was the only thing. Everything else was, everything was else. We didn't have a lot of those things. Those little plunges off you're sitting on the top rope, and the guys they started that Jericho. They drop back and head scissors you off the top rope. the Steiners stuff started that. The Steiner liner or whatever it was. Yeah, that was just coming as I was just going. So I got the power bombs and the
moonsaults,
all those massive. The suplexes were coming, but and they were there, but they weren't. They weren't used a lot. Somebody be making a comeback or somebody be doing something, and they'd give me a big suplex. So I'd call the bumps anyway. There wasn't anything. Just that one where I had magnets in my feet, and the mat was made of metal.
I'll move on. Then we'll skip through, and then we'll sort of end this podcast. So I'll just finish off with Pedro. So it's 1985. He returns to the WWF. You beat him in the King of the Ring, the original King of the Ring semi-finals. He beats you a few months later in some house show somewhere. He's not a fan of the sports entertainment style, and when he's brought in, he's just progressively going lower on the card in the last 2 years he's there. He's part of the WrestleMania 2 Battle Royal. Let me think what else. But there we go. Harvey Martin. I don't know that name, but he's some NFL
football player from Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, they eliminate each other. They get rid of each other early. The one thing that I thought was worth mentioning was they actually challenges for the tag titles against the Dream Team with somebody called Steve Gatorwolf. Now, it's come out later that he's a real piece of shit, this guy. But in the WWF, did you have any interaction with this dude at all?
I remember him from up the Pacific Northwest there somewhere. He came from around the Portland, Vancouver area. He was honest to goodness a Native American, something, and then out of shape. Not a great worker, and I don't know what he got into later. But yeah, he got a little break. And then I don't know what happened to him. I guess he got the title. Just watching him work, I think sure the agents went back and say, this ain't going to happen here. Because you need an Indian that can dance and chop and throw do the Indian dance. And I don't think he liked to dance. That's I come to think of it. Yeah, I don't think he liked to dance. He didn't. He was a heavyset guy anyway, so I don't think he was. He was into that. The dance in the circles and the chops, like Wahoo. Even Wahoo didn't have a great big dance, but it was enough. White Wolf, Adnan was a good dancer. And then of all people, Strongbow was a Strongbow. Well, that was his whole match, Strongbow, Jay didn't want to. He didn't want to touch. He didn't want to take a bump. He didn't want to. He just grabbed this, stayed okay. Okay, Monster, you all right, Monster? Me, always call him Monster.
So Steve Gatorwolf never made it because he wasn't a good dancer, basically, or he just refused to.
Yeah. Didn't like to dance. Not big on dancing.
Oh, dear
Go
me.
figure.
I was not expecting that for an answer.
Stick here, you gotta get all the inside stuff here.
Yeah, you give us the inside scoop. I need to qualify.
Who the hell died? Somebody died. I can't think of who it was. Not Hardy, not Jeff Hardy. My God. I feel sorry now. I feel slighting somebody now.
Well, you think of that. I'll explain why I call him a piece of shit. Because aside from the fact that he was illegally promoting fights, he did a couple of years for aggravated assault. I think something like 2014, he was arrested for 7 felony counts of sexual assault on a 15-year-old girl who was the daughter of one of his friends. So it's like, yeah, you suck, pal. So I don't know if you did time for it. Hopefully you did. Anyway, I'll move on. And with my script as well.
Another Buck Zumoff, huh?
Oh God, Buck Zumoff. Yeah, he's the worst. There's someone else as well from WCW. He was basically a jobber. He was called Hard Body Harrison. The black guy who was there in the mid-90s, late 90s, and basically he's doing life no parole for having basically like kidnapping women and forcing him to turn tricks, and it's like that's a bit heavy.
That Danny Littlebear. Yeah, Stephen Littlebear is another one. Danny Littlebear. He liked the barely teenagers. He had a van take him around. Looking one time, he had the little refrigerator in his van. He's, oh yeah, and he opened it up and little whiskey, the little hotel bottles, bottles of booze, vodka and
the Jesus juice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a little thing on his bed.
Seems to be a bit of a common occurrence. What think
Grizzly Smith? Yeah.
Grizzly Smith. There's another one.
Yeah.
Let's I'll wrap that up. One thing with Pedro, the Honky Tonk Man, which is always whenever you start a story with Honky Tonk Man said, it's always going to be a decent story.
Come up.
Yeah, he used to say that back in like 86, 87, Billy Jack Haynes was in the locker room, and Pedro would always go, Billy, you're not gonna make it, Billy, and just wind Billy Jack Haynes up. Did Pedro get a bit unhappy in his last days, do you know? Or, was just winding Billy up, or was he just getting a bit bitter and just like unhappy that he was going down the card?
I don't know. It doesn't seem like something Pedro would do. Seems completely out of character. I mean, he wasn't somebody, he was always, he'd walk in, he'd walk around the locker room, shake everybody's hand, greet everybody, ring boy, jacket guy, wrestler, main event, preliminary. How you, amigo? How you doing? How you gonna be doing tonight? You're all right. You're lucky. You're just a young whippersnapper. That was his. He was a gentleman. Pedro's a wonderful guy. I don't know. About him winding up. You'd have to ask Billy Jack. I don't think he'd want to. Pedro was old too. He didn't want to. Billy Jack was a stud. You didn't want to. I don't think Pedro wanted to wind unless he had the Gonzalez toothpick with him. Those big knives, Bowie knives, or something. No, I can't see. Well, but Honky was there. Every time when I used to go to Spunk shows and I find out Honky was there, I'd run, grab a chair and go sit next to Honky. So I said, "What's going on, Honky?" And he would, the guys, tell me, this guy, Jake the Snake. Well, he's going with English girl. He's taking all her money. And this is when Jake was, still out and about before he got with DDP. And he's doing this. So how about this guy? Oh, man, this guy, he went this and spent all his money doing that. And he blew up. How about this guy? What's this guy? Oh, he's doing okay. Rarely does he have something nice. Rarely does this guy. I'm happy for him. He's been a great success and made done well in the outside of the business. No, that wasn't Honky. Everybody was. I'm curious what he said about me. What kind of fat son of a bitch I was. I wouldn't.
Yeah.
And it's just a source. You just think it is. If I cried about everybody that called me a fat son of a bitch, I'd still be crying. The trail of tears.
What's the saying? Inquiring minds need to know for the National Enquirer. The muckraking journalism.
Yeah, but I'd run to him. He'd get all from because he traveled a lot. When the Independent, a lot of those guys didn't want to give up the money right away, so they went right with the Independents and the bookings and stuff. And a couple shows and once or twice getting stiffed on hotel fare or stiffed on that. This is, I'm done. I've had enough. And I went to New Zealand, did some promotion, and then came back and everybody was selling pictures and taking pictures and doing the Polaroids and, they'd work the independent shows and they'd go and sit in the lobbies of the hotels and sell their 8x10 pictures to the fans. Would come over there, but I couldn't do that. That was for the that was for the concession people. I would give, I'd wife or somebody would pack a couple hundred pictures for me to take, and I'd end up giving the goddamn things away. I just couldn't, I was a different era. Not that there's anything wrong with that, that these guys are doing that now, and they need to supplement, their income, because they're not doing so. Another 100, 200, whatever they're knocking down on pictures, good for them, but it just wasn't my bag. Mike Kalua and Tom Brandy and those guys that had that, that merchandising thing all down. I couldn't, I was just, I was too big a star.
Thing is, I mean, you were though, and if you're selling your own stuff on the street corners like Virgil, it just makes you seem like less of a star. So you did the right thing.
Jake had the Polaroids.
Yeah,
Jake did those Polaroids in Australia, which was lucky for me. For some reason, they put us together in a hotel room. Now, why you put two top guys sharing a hotel? As just Jake smoked, I didn't smoke. I snored. Jake, so the first night after his, he was knocking back $800,000 a night, tax free on those Polaroid pictures. It's just $20 a shot. They'd line up out the building. You come, click, 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 sign it later. And, 300 of them. You got a load of money, And
I
so he said, I'll pay for my own room.
Yeah.
I got my own room.
And Bobby Blaze said to me that he was on the same tour and that every night Jake would pay for dinner for everybody because he was making so much on the Polaroids that he wouldn't get stupid with it. Yeah, he wouldn't. He wasn't horny. He was buy drinks, buy food, whatever. Everybody was making good money anyway. So I'll ask the last couple of questions and we shall wrap it up and call it an evening in your case, or call it a morning in my case. Pedro's last match on record is on the 16th of November 1987. He sort of retired from the road a few months earlier, but this was the Old Timers Battle Royal in East Rutherford, New Jersey. I'll give you the participants. The winner, Lou Thez, defeated Al Costello.
Oh, I remember that one. Yeah.
Well, I'll give you the participants, and then we'll talk about it. So
go ahead with the names.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Al Costello, Arnold Skoland, Art Thomas. Who was Art Thomas?
Oh God, he was a big black man, muscular. Looked like Tony Atlas, built like Tony Atlas. No steroids. Worked in a meatpacking company somewhere in Wisconsin, and he looked so good. He was so 6'3", 6'4", 260, always ripped, always pumped, always cut, but dumb as a fence post. You'd have to go, and you boom over the. You go like this, and give him that. Oh yeah, yes sir. No. But boy, people loved him, man. He was, he was another guy. Maybe they might have tried to put him heel, but he had no sense. He was a big, he had a big family. Took care of lived around Wisconsin, made money. I don't know if they screwed him on money because he wasn't a sharp guy or anything, but in his time, he was looked like Tony Atlas, built like Tony Atlas. Not quite as not quite the guns and not quite the definition and the the elaborate shape, but boy, in 1970, and he was before my time, but in 71, 72, and then even when he was young, he must have looked just stupid. He looked so good, But in my time, when I first got there, he was an elder statesman, and he still looked fabulous. And he would just, and he'd get out there and you get him with a couple of heels that would lead him. I was a baby face, and I always got those kind of guys because, I'd get in there. I was young and a couple arm drags and, make a couple cute moves. And then, boom, I'd shut down, bang, down. And they, just beat the shit out of me. till the time was right. Give Art the tag, and boy, that was it. People just, and the heels would come and start flying. And you did Larry Hennig, Lars Anderson, some, it was a good Bobby Heenan, Goulet, or, it was AWA where I was at. So they're always, smart, clever heels that wanted to make a match. If you wanted to make a match, you flew like I did for Bobo. You wanted to make, but it was a little harder. Bobo was sharp and Bobo knew what was going on, but it was a little harder to line you, put yourself in the right place for Sailor to throw you around. But he was a legend, boy.
Did he still look good in '87 then?
Oh God, yeah, probably. He worked in a meat packing company. And had a family and everything in Wisconsin, and always lifting those big sides of beef, and he'd go to the gym afterwards. He was he was way ahead of his, up until Atlas and Johnson and those kind of guys got in the business. He still had the, bar none, the best body. Yeah.
Right. I'll have to look him up then.
And big man. And he looked like and he could have passed for a NFL professional football player. He was that muscular and that big. Awesome. Great guy. I was surprised. I was always, Don Leo, Jonathan, him, Andre. I got in that Barnett locked me in that spot where I was the I was the dummy. I was and they liked me. I had potential. I was a young kid that had potential, but when the heels got a hold of me, they beat the snot out of me. And then I was no rush, and my mind was set. I had a good mind for the business. They said, especially after I got back from Japan, that my selling had really, gone to the nth level, really improved. And that's where I became, I'd travel, I'd go to the Omni, I'd go to Carolina, I'd go somewhere where Andre was coming in as a tag partner. And we were ranked at one time as, as tag team, in the different champions that they had, and the top contenders, and Andre and myself. Well, I did that. We started that finish with Bill Watts. We're working with Dusty and Ole Anderson in Fort Hesterly, Tampa. I remember it was a hell of a finish. And what set it up, because earlier I had pinned Dusty. Mistakenly, they thought me for Jack Briscoe. And I kicked out, they bringing Jack Briscoe's in. They raised Jack's hand. He didn't know what happened. Nobody didn't try to explain it, but I was the one that had pinned Dusty. So as a baby face. So at this night, it was Ole came down to Tampa to do the honors because he was a big star from Georgia. And Dusty was still a heel before he turned babyface. And Andre came in, and I was naturally his partner. We were just starting. And so we worked a segment there. Something happened. I was leaning out the side, and Dusty was beating me over the apron, onto the floor. And Andre came around and ran Dusty off. And Ole grabbed me, dragged me back in the ring, gave me 2 or 3 shots, grabbed me, and threw me over the top rope. The hardest part about that was coming out even and trying to come out balanced. The hardest part about for me. The hardest part balance is to give Andre something to do. So I came over the top rope. Andre was standing on the floor. This is, we're talking about 8, 9, 10 feet. He was on the floor. He caught me in those enormous hands of his, grabbed me and pressed me and threw me back over the top rope. And I was like a volleyball. Went over one way and back over the other way. There was Ole Anderson. I cross body blocked Ole Anderson. 1, 2, 3. Boom. And that was and Andre's son of a bitch. He says they want to do that finish in other territories. The other guys don't know how to come over, and they can't make it right.
How much were
One of
you
my
weighing at the
proudest
time?
moments in the business.
Was
Sorry?
it really? I was going to say, how much did you weigh at the time?
I was in the 30s, but if it was a 260 probably, and he was young. He was still young yet. This was 74, so I was in my 30s, 25 to 32. One of my proudest moments in the business. I think Vince had a show over here in Hawaii. There's Yokozuna and Bam Bam and all these, all the big stars at the time. I was over here on the docks already, had retired, gotten out, and Andre was sitting there, and all the boys were in the locker room. And I walked in the locker room. I hadn't seen anybody, and Andre jumped up out of his chair and ran across the room, and grabbed me, and I was, "Oh, brother, where you been?" I was like, "Well, we missed you." So, and everybody else is looking, because Andre didn't like anybody. And I hadn't seen me in a long time. So maybe absence makes the heart grow fonder. But he ran over, hugged me, grabbed me, picked me up, shook me around. "Oh, man, come, I'm going with you. I have to stay with you, but I have to go." He used to come in the hotel I stayed at. And we eat on the thing, and we'd sit outside, girls. And I had these dirty tapes he'd play when we were at the island. He'd play them. He'd play them as loud as he could. And go out, and I had 3 or 4 girls around at the time, and we'd all go out, and he'd take us all out. It was just cool, I wasn't just stayed away from the expensive places because Andre wasn't shy about laying the I wouldn't follow him to those Nick's fish markets and stuff like that. But I always had him lined up with a couple of nice ladies, and he always Andre was a lot of those guys were. That was before he got tired of being a giant, and it wore on him, and he wasn't happy. Hurt, pain.
Did he always pick up the tab?
Probably. There was no tab they would just pretty much run it, when he was there, and the end of the night. So Skolin or those guys were probably watching too. Make sure they didn't take him. I tell you, Boston, when he slapped the one guy, came off the street. We're sitting in the Bradford Hotel, old divey place, and they had the little bar where everybody would get together after the matches. Not everybody, but it's close to Chinatown in Boston, which had a wonderful Chinatown. So we were there, and naturally, me and whatever heels I was with were in another, different part of the lounge. Not bothering anybody. They weren't bothering having a coffee or a beer. Andre was cocktail hour about 1 o'clock, so it was already time for Andre to wet his whistle. But we were eating or have a sandwich or maybe even a beer, whatever. So we're sitting there, and this big Native American Indian guy, big guy, 6'6", 300-poundish, big man, comes walking on the street. Andre's in the back of the booth, Skolin and whoever else they were, a couple other guys. Skolin was over there, and I want that guy. Andre is begging off, but I go. I don't want nothing. You insult and this. I want you. Get up here. I'm gonna slap the piss out of you. So finally, Andre, okay. He hit a nerve. So up comes Andre, and the guy's just, whoa, what did I do? So he's watching this Andre mount the tower, what the hell? And Andre just hit him with one backhand. The guy went flying about 4 feet in the air. Before he even hit the ground, his legs his legs were going like it was like Roadrunner, Bugs Bunny. His legs were moving 100 miles an hour before he even hit the ground. He was booming. He was out that bar. He was out of that lounge before you could tell, before anything happened. Andre was a. I remember one time you had some guy in Atlanta, one of the late bar where Andre, some guys wanted to fight me. And as I started to walk over the other side, he put his arm out. No, boss. Trying to, no, boss. No. Yeah, what am I going to do? Punch Andre to go and get somebody else beat the shit out of me? No. I told you his famous rib, though. So I know it's a rib because he did it to Pedro, back to Pedro Morales, and he did it to Peter Maivia. He would get down and they'd drinking in the bar, and then he would get, he would go into his stupor, his drunken stupor where he couldn't, So I know one time it was Peter and one time it was Pedro, and they helped him back, arm over the back and carrying him back leading him back to his hotel room, open the door and get inside the bed. Andre had the big king size bed. Before they could do it, he'd switch around and he'd turn around and he'd fall right on top of him, right on top of the bed. and he'd make like, I don't know, and he'd make like he was passed out. And you got a 500-pound giant in a big soft bed, and you're covered, and Peter's only 300 pounds, and Pedro's only about 250. Yeah. I don't know how many other guys he did that to, but I know that for a fact. As I know, it was a habit of his. Or he loved to play jokes. He was always, he was, and especially when he first started, before he started hurting, before his body got started to deteriorate.
Hopefully he played it on the Haiti Kid one day and he just disappeared completely.
Haiti Kid, I love the Haiti Kid. Good time.
I'm going to give you the rest of the Battle Royal participants. So Baron Mikel Cicluna, Bobo Brazil, Chief J Strongbow, Dominica Danucci, Eduardo Compartier, Gene Kiniski, Gino Brito. Which territory did he own? Was that Montreal?
Montreal.
Yeah.
He was Bravo's partner before he came to New York. He was Dino's partner. Gino Brito and Dino Bravo.
Let me have a look as well. Killer Kowalski, Nick Botwinkle, Pat O'Connor. I don't know if it's worth mentioning anything about Pat. I don't know if you were
old world champion from New Zealand.
Yeah.
He had the world title, dropped it to Rogers. Nice guy. I don't know what he's doing over here. From New Zealand, making money, obviously. But he moved in and he got there and never had the opportunity to work. He was naturally older. I never got to work with Thez either. And I didn't realize Buddy Colt was that much older than I was, because Buddy is talking to Buddy, on Facebook, he's talking about working with Thez. I said, how old, and just 3 or 4 years ago, I said, how old is Buddy? You got the I was around. I never got the opportunity to work with Lou. He says, and Buddy said, well, at the time, he was 81. He said, well, obviously, you're over 10, 12 years my senior. So you would have been, Cowboy Ron Reed or whoever you were at the time. And he had the opportunity to work with Thez.
Yeah. The last few are Pedro Morales, of course, Ray Stevens, Rene Goulet, The Crusher, and Tony Gurria. The only other fact that I'll bring up on this is that this is apparently the Battle Royal where Randy Savage wanted his father, Angelo Poffo, to take part, and Vince McMahon wouldn't let him. And that's where the relationship soured between Randy and Vince McMahon.
Well, what was that about, too? Was somebody from the office that had a hard on? Because they don't care. It's nothing. It's a small plane flight. Angelo wasn't going to spend a lot of money, and he probably just, if if Randy was on the card, he'd be sharing a room with Randy. Well, not with Randy, with Liz, or with Liz, but with Lanny or something. And then Angelo was tight too. Angelo didn't like partying with money. He held on to. These guys were sleeping in their cars. Just do anything, save money.
So do you think it was just someone trying to mess with Randy then and annoy him?
Yeah, that was an office thing. Who it came from or what, you gotta be a fly on the wall to know what was going on there. Maybe Vince had a hard on for him. Pat didn't like the old man or so. There's no reason why they wouldn't stick Angelo and Poffo in the card and, just give him a little payday. Because
yeah, I mean, you just make up the numbers anyway. It's not like he'd be taking.
Yeah, it was just another face, just another face in the ring, and they don't, I don't know. So that was, those little things you never know why they happen, for the reason that they happened, because they happened,
yeah.
And there was no reason for it to take place.
Any other memories of that battle royal? Did you make a beeline to shake anybody's hand, to introduce yourself and say hello?
I don't know. Was I on the card?
I don't know. I just sort of assumed you were there.
That was in Long Island. Was that Long and Nassau Coliseum?
East Rutherford.
Meadowlands. There's a big Meadowlands show. I didn't make too many of those for some reason. Or I didn't have a lot of top show. I wasn't, I don't know, the Garden. I was, they'd use me good in the Garden. They used me good in those places. But it wasn't, it wasn't a knockout, maybe a steamboat match or something like that. But Nassau Coliseum, I got to push once in a while. But for some reason, they just, and then, it's just all what's in their head,
It's probably because you lived in New Jersey and they couldn't possibly try and make life easy for you.
Yeah, man. The times they had I remember Stud and Andre or somebody. Stud and somebody was in the Meadowlands, sold out, big house. Maybe it was Uncle Elmer's wedding or something. And was me and John Stud and I believe Jimmy and Andre in Scranton, Pennsylvania, at the Catholic Youth Organization Field House. About sold out to the rafters, 3,500, 4,000 people maybe. You got a massive sub $20,000 house when you got this other, 18, 20,000 arena. But that was, things worked out. It wasn't something you'd go and cry about. Some people might. Some guys did. It wasn't something you'd cry about because you'd make it up somewhere else. If I'm not here, I'll be in the Garden. If I'm not, there were so many towns. That's when they talk. That's where they talk about the territory going broke and Pedro not drawing different places. The cards were set up and the business was set up that they were going to draw. Whether Morales was the main event or some, it's there's going to be a good house in Philly or wherever, they unless, and Vince would do it too. He'd cut off his nose to spite his face. They'd give you a short card, something that didn't amount to, but that's not, that wasn't the practice. They all, when they're working out of the office and putting stuff together, and Vince, the senior, other inputs, they wouldn't deliberately short somebody, or do something just out of animosity.
Unless it was Randy Savage, and then they just wouldn't let his dad wrestle in the Battle Royal.
Well, yeah. But Randy made a shitload of money. Fast time.
Yeah.
He was smart. He did a lot. He put a lot of thought What was it Lanny that came on this one or
Lanny's been
Making
on.
Waves?
Lanny's been on my show, not on this one.
Making Waves. Well, he came on. He was kind enough to do an appearance with me, and he. What were we talking about? It's getting late in this.
Yeah, no, I will close it down. Angelo Poffo not going on the Battle Royal.
Oh yeah, but he made. Oh God, I lost it.
No, it doesn't matter. We'll. I'll end with this very quick one. Pedro as a road agent. Any memories of him as a road agent?
That didn't last very long.
It didn't last very long. He also did Spanish commentary for the WWF, and he also did it for WCW, like Nitro, I believe. Great friends with Bobby Heenan, so I think Bobby brought him over. I've said this before.
That probably lasted for a while because he was a good, in Spanish he was a good communicator.
And the last thing I'll mention is, and I've said it before a few times actually, is he seems so, he being Pedro, seems so overlooked as compared to Bruno or even Bob Backlund. I don't know if, there's just not that much footage of him, but there wasn't that much footage of Bruno, really, in the early days at least. But, Pedro didn't really give that many interviews outside of wrestling. He's never done like a long-form interview, as far as I can tell. And he's sort of forgotten or not as appreciated as much as he might have been. What do you reckon?
I think the business was going so good they didn't have to hotshot anything. That they, his interviews were satisfactory, and the heels that came in were entertaining enough. And they had Moondog Mayne and Larry Henning and Crazy Luke and a bunch, So the heels that came in, to take the title away from him, Curtis, they were all well seasoned pros, and Pedro gave you a hell of a match. I mean, it was the same match, but it was the same thing. He'd start, and he'd go into that big cell, and he knew in his mind that if he carried that cell on long enough and worked it, eventually the people actually believed that he's hurt, and which is the goal. Used to be the goal, but now they don't sell anything. But it used to be the goal of a babyface to convert you into that mindset where you're really, whether it's overdone, you're not dying, but the guys, Ray Stevens or whoever it was, Jake Snake or somebody, no good son of a bitch has just got you. And then, you come back from the dead, and then you can kind of feel it, when people, a couple times I went like Ray Stevens, I wrestled him in a big place one time, and possibly my selling wasn't enough or something, because and Dusty too, I expected a big, the match was, a good position, good spot on the card, and I expected a real, and maybe they were looking for, a closer competitive match or something, whatever. But I always expected, great reaction out of some of those. And I think if it didn't really pop, it's probably my fault for rushing. I don't know that it was. I'm just guessing. I had a match with Dusty in Minneapolis when he was a heel. Long time when, it was built up on the card. It was a good spot in the card, and it was anticipated to be a hell of a match. Didn't turn out to, Dusty was always a half baby face anyway. So you really got to go the extra mile to get sympathy when you got somebody like that. It just doesn't. And the young guys, and a lot of mostly your young male fans don't like that because you're too much like them, so they don't. They're waiting for you to get the shit kicked out of you. That's so it's hard to turn. But sometimes you expect, something's going to happen. This is magic here. Rhodes and Muraco, young babyface and Texas Outlaw. This is going to be magic. No. Well, no, a good match. And we usually, we always send them away with, with good matches, but what you had inside, what you had pictured, that the people would be going, how the people were going.
Did you work with him when you were the bad guy and Dusty was the good guy?
Yeah. Florida.
Was that the dynamic that really worked out? Was that just the best? Oh yeah,
Florida. Florida. He was hot. He broke up the towns. Well, I was kind of the leader of our group. We had Curtis, Joe LeDuc, Killer Khan, Saito. Sonny King was there for a while. We had a great crew of heels, just big, ugly, nasty guy. Curtis and Khan and Joe LeDuc. My God, Trick or Treat. These guys, Freddy Krueger and Jason got nothing on them. They're real life characters. But we had the best time. We were just, everybody got along. Nobody was jealous of one another. Nobody was, trying to get in this. We were just a bonding. We always had the greatest time together.
Yeah, as Fonzie said to me the other day, Florida at the time was a well-oiled machine. I think he was right.
Yeah.
Right, so I will. I'll do you a favour, Don. I'll let you go to bed. So I'll shut the podcast down. So I will thank you.
Tomorrow's my swim day. I'm getting back on routine now.
Oh yeah.
Well, it was all those doctor's appointments and everything else. And Monday, Wednesday, Friday is my workout and walk. And I worked out and swam, and then got jiu-jitsu today for the kid, not me.
Yeah.
And then tomorrow's my swimming day. I'm gonna roll a dry. I broke my water pipe last night, so it's a very sad day.
Water pipe. What's that?
Yeah. Put it in, breathe the thing. It goes through like a hookah.
Oh, right.
But it's not.
I've got you.
But it's not, yeah. That's to go back to old-fashioned rolling.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure
go to sleep.
I'm sure Santa will bring you one for Christmas. I mean, there's enough time. Right, so I'm going to close the podcast. I'm going to let Don go to sleep. I'm going to let myself go for a nap as well. So thank you very much for watching. DonTheRockMorocco.com for all signed merchandise, Twitter, Instagram, blah, 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 blah. The Rock and Owen Hart books, Amazon, blah, 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 blah. I'm very, very much not invested in these plugs anymore, I must admit. But what I am invested in is more stories from Don. So thank you very much, Don, for joining us once again. And thank you for joining us. And we'll catch you next week.
Kaliki Maka, holy lucky.
Meli Kaliki Maka, it's some... Blah, blah, blah.
Holy Makaiki. It's Happy New Year's.
Bless you.